pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Heavenly Father, we thank you for the day you've given us, the opportunity to be here tonight. We thank you for the proceedings. We pray, Lord, that you would bless our nation and bless our city. And I pray that you bless these men on the council. We pray that you take care of their needs. And we pray that you bless the proceedings tonight. In Jesus' name we ask it. Amen.
Can we have roll call, please, clerk?
Green. Paprick.
Here.
Guthrie.
Here.
Thompson.
Here.
Allen.
Here.
Swisher.
Here.
Brandt.
Here.
Cook.
Here.
Okay, we have a quorum. Can I have a motion and a second to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
Second, Allen.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. If everybody's had a chance to review them, can I have a motion to approve or correct the regular session minutes of December 3rd, 2024, and the work session minutes of December 3rd, 2024?
Motion to approve.
Second, Brandt.
Thompson, Brandt. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you. Time for committee reports. The first is Community Development and Code Committee, Council Members Cook and Allen.
For the month of November, we had 24 building permits issued, 13 electrical permits, 1 mechanical permit, and 48 plumbing permits issued. Total value of projects is $840,904. And that resulted in $1,906.09 of fees collected. And then we had one citation issued for accumulated junk and debris, and 3 issued for property maintenance issued, or property maintenance issues. That's for 4 records, that's pretty good. That's pretty light issuance there, so if we can keep that up, then pretty soon we won't have nuisance issues in town, if we can keep that up. And that's all I got, except for the code enforcement hearing is tomorrow at 8:30. So if you got one of them things that's, you're supposed to appear before the code enforcement committee, come see us in the morning at 8:30.
John, you got anything?
Nothing.
Okay. Public Safety, Public Relations Committee, Council Members Guthrie and Swisher.
Yes, Your Honor. For the month of November, the police department had a total of 162 traffic stops. They issued 25 citations, arrested 10 people, and charged other people with DWI and other traffic offenses were 9. They served 27 warrants for the municipal court, had 1,527 calls for the entire month, which comes up to about an average of 50 calls per day. They took 125 police reports, which is an average of around 4.6, almost 5. And from those reports, there were 29 arrests made. For the animal shelter, there were 7 citations issued. Dogs and puppies that were picked up were 21. No cats. Dogs returned to owners were 12. 4 dogs were adopted, and 2 cats were adopted. And that's all for the month of November. Okay, Ethan, do you have anything you want to add to that?
I do not.
Okay.
Great. Municipal Services and Personnel Committee, Councilmember Brandt.
Yes, Your Honor. Just a couple of things. Airport improvements are moving right along. Everything is looking really good out there. And we're also working on some contracts and negotiations on some hangars that's in kind of a pending issue. We also, at Municipal Services Committee, met, and JD and Drew and I met with David Kruger with RTS to review his proposal for some commercial rate increases, not residential, but commercial. And we'll be dealing with that later on in the council under Section 8 with resolutions.
Correct.
That's all I have. Randy, you got anything? Anything? Okay. Okay, that's all I have, Your Honor.
Thank you, Dan. Property, Finance, Budget, and Audit Committee, Council Members Thompson and Paprick.
Yeah, revenues, as of November are at $2,271,579, which is 16.96%. Expenditures are at $3,902,349, is at 27.45%. It seems upside down, but it's very common, for in the second month of the budget. Everyone's excited about purchasing new equipment, et cetera, in the year, but the revenues will come throughout the year. That's all I have, unless Jim has something else.
We met, the Finance Committee met before the meeting tonight, just discussed the inspection fee schedule and potentially trying to modernize that in the near future. That's all I have.
And that's going to Elizabeth for codification, then we'll review it again,
Yeah.
correct? All right, thank you. Thank you. City Administrator's Report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a couple items of interest. Dollar General, as you recall, had an option on the courts building to purchase that property with the caveat that they would have to build a market rather than a regular Dollar General store. They contacted me last week and said that they are not going to exercise that option to purchase. They didn't really give a whole lot of detail other than it just doesn't fit with their current plans. So I notified the affected department heads, and everyone breathed a bit of a sigh of relief because it does take some of the pressure off in terms of having to get out of the building quickly. However, we still want to explore finding the courts a permanent home, probably in this building, and the band, the municipal band, has throughout its life here in Marshall been in many different locations over the years, and I've talked to the band director on numerous occasions, and I'm going to continue to work with him. I really think that despite the fact that Dollar General's not going to move on that property, we really need to work on finding the band a permanent and appropriate location that's built to function properly as a rehearsal space, but also a place where they can store their records and the many volumes of sheet music and things like that they own that right now are in the basement of that facility, and every day that they sit like that, of course, they're deteriorating. So we're going to continue that initiative. I don't necessarily anticipate anything happening relatively soon, but we have the balance of this fiscal year to kind of work through that problem. On another note, the demolition began yesterday on the old boiler building, the smokestack building. The contractor has been working on the south end. As soon as he identifies a go date to drop the stack itself, he's promised to give us notice so that that can be put out to the public for people that may be interested in watching that come down. So that just got underway yesterday, and I'm hoping that maybe by the end of this week we'll have some idea of timeline, as right now they're really moving to get a lot of the metal and iron and what's left of the old boilers out of the inside of that building before they bring the building down around it. So happy to answer any questions that anybody may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kerman. I've got quite a few things tonight. First, something fun that's going to be on our website. It's already on Facebook. It should be on our website. On the Friday after Christmas, on the 27th, we're going to have the Fitzgibbon Park dedication ceremony at 1 o'clock. There'll be some coffee and cookies and water out there, and I think we're going to hear from Angie Luttrell and Ron Ott, the present and past administrators of the hospital, and maybe a little history about that. The public is invited and indeed welcome. We'll have a ribbon cutting with the chamber as well. So that'll be 1 o'clock Friday the 27th. If you're not in line at Walmart returning your presents, come on out.
Is that at the hospital?
That will be at the site of the park itself by the old hospital on the corner of Summit and Brunswick.
Oh, the old hospital.
the old hospital. That's where the park is, and that's where we're gonna dedicate it. Going up a little further from what JD said about the stack, there have been some requests to get maybe some bricks or some other mementos from that stack after it's torn down. So in order to keep people away from the, instead of construction site, the destruction site, we're going to, Randy's gonna get the front loader for the city, and he's gonna take some bricks down and put them on that parking lot just north of the lake there as you go in. And people can come pick up bricks there, and for a couple of days, we'll probably ask everybody to limit it to 1 or 2 bricks, and then after that, you can grab as many as you want, because it'll save us some cleanup. But anyway, some people wanted some mementos, especially people that worked out the Hab Center. It's the last building that's gonna be torn down, and the smokestack's kind of an iconic landmark, so anybody, that'll be available. We'll, once again, you'll have to pay a little attention. We'll try to get it on Facebook, we'll get it on the news and everything, but that whole situation could happen fairly quickly. So if you have a question and you think you've missed it, just call City Hall, and we'll give you a date if we have it. I just want to tell the council, Marshall Municipal League is going to have a meeting January the 15th in Columbia at noon. It's a lunch meeting. If anybody wants to go to that, I'd like to see some participation if you can. If you can get away, just let Julie know, and she'll enroll you in that.
January 15th?
January 15th, I believe it's a Wednesday. Now, I've told the councilman this, and there was a Facebook posting about what's going on at the site north of town. I know a lot of you here for that tonight. I just felt that I had to respond to it. I had phone calls from people feeling that they might have been denigrated, maybe not intentionally, but they felt that they were denigrated on this, and some concerns were raised. So I'm just going to read this. And I've already talked to the councilman, and we're going to be friends after this, but this is something I think I need to respond to as the mayor. And I've got a little froggy tonight, so it may take a little minute. Good evening. When I began my term as mayor, there were issues facing the city on several levels. The council had internal problems with each other and some city employees. I worked hard to soothe those feelings and solve the problems. They may not all be solved, but we are certainly in a better place than we were a year ago. There were areas of friction, or at least lack of communication, with Missouri Valley College, Marshall Public Schools, Marshall Municipal Utilities, and Marshall Saline Development Corporation. The city council had not been active in the Missouri Municipal League for some time. Since then, the city has partnered with all of these entities, and all of us are on the same page and working together on present as well as future projects. I am the Central Region President of the Missouri Municipal League at present, and we use their resources all the time. Bring all of this up at this time as there is now a disturbance in the force. I want to talk about a few contradictions and some perceived threats from a post on Facebook that recently came to my attention. It's written by one of our councilmen, and it is alarming enough both in content and practice that I thought I should speak to it in this forum. It has to deal with a proposed land deal with a developer that wishes to build 100 houses on property currently owned by the city. There have been hurdles and some temporary setbacks, but I feel that both sides have dealt in good faith and that we are almost there. The councilman who wrote this has usually voted against proposals that deal with land use in the city. I know that we can all play hardball, and there's nothing wrong with that, but we also need to be realistic. Cities are not money-making ventures. Cities and the elected and appointed officials are tasked with making the city safe and keeping it running smoothly. If it were a money-making venture, people would pay for their own street and sidewalk repairs, and indeed, that was the case many years ago. Citizens would have to pay for fire insurance or be billed if there was a fire on their property. We wouldn't have a park system. The examples are endless, but it comes down to decisions and how best we use our resources. Sometimes that means a city builds a spec building to attract a business. Sometimes it means the city trades land to alleviate potentially prohibitive costs in developing that land. The latter is this case in point. The land is currently zoned R2 residential and even had an existing plat for a subdivision. It is not zoned commercial, agricultural, or industrial. It should come as no surprise that a developer is interested in it. This developer is willing to take the risks involved with building the infrastructure first, then building houses. That's roads, sewer, everything. The only request he had was to keep the streets maintainable, but not to finish them until the risk of damage by heavy equipment is over with. We have not approved this deal yet, as there are still some state stormwater items that need to be resolved. Also, the city has requested a reversionary clause in the contract that would allow the city to reclaim the land and gain all the improvements in the case of a default. The city has done its due diligence on this matter, and the project will stand or fall on its own when it comes before the council. We did a similar deal with the public schools recently, and the city is not on the hook for the infrastructure work being done now or in the future at the site of the new school. Though there is more to discuss in these matters, I want to keep things as brief as possible. This same councilman is a good guy, but he's never shied away from lecturing me or the council on accountability and transparency. Yet this missive on Facebook is anything but. It is also filled with innuendo and geared language calculated getting a response from those not totally informed on this situation. First item that I noticed, he suggested the developer is from the St. Louis area, as if that should be a deal breaker. Waynesville is twice as far from St. Louis as Marshall is from Kansas City. When was the last time that a decision by Kansas City's city council affected how we ran Marshall? The suggestion itself is repugnant and off-putting. The next items are the words free and stranger, capitalized, as to instill doubt or fear. Stranger danger is a good thing to teach the children, but it has very little place in city affairs. Strangers own Cargill, ConAgra, the Marshall Plaza, Walmart, and others. We leave the way they do business up to them. It isn't much of a problem for us to vet new people coming to town, and this developer has been vetted satisfactorily by several sources. The free issue is also misleading and not at all transparent. As I alluded to earlier, the contractor has the skin in this, and the city has very little, if any, liability. The size of the lots should not be a concern. People buy lots, all sorts of houses. There are requests all the time to build on oddly shaped lots. The price is what it is. Housing prices, grocery costs, and car prices have all gone up. It's not going to get any cheaper if we build this next year. Our councilman likes to bring up the Garinger property. Yes, the realtors in town got us over for sandwiches and a pep talk. Most of us agreed to give them 6 months to find a developer. Well, we found something we thought would benefit the city more in the long term. You can argue about how it was done. I have apologized for any hurt it may have caused to those who will listen, and I have learned from that deal not to make promises I can't keep. He also asked if we should reimburse the developer of the Fitzgibbon property as we charged him a minimal amount for his land. The developer had originally proposed adding a road and the infrastructure to the property. He later felt that it would be better only to do some work on Mitchell Street, so we felt comfortable in charging him a bit for the property as he didn't have to spend as much on developing it. As far as people in the community being for or against the proposal, that is obviously their right. I would like to point out that there were many letters of support for this proposal from community leaders and organizations. MSDC has many concerned and impressive people on its board as well, and to imply that they are complicit in a conflict of interest causing harm to the city is a false condemnation of some of our most valued citizens. To make another item clear, doing business with developers and other entities often start with a meeting in closed session. As soon as a plan is produced, you go public. That's what happened in this case, and everything that was discussed in that first meeting has been made public in one form or another. This has been discussed in council meetings, planning and zoning meetings, and has been covered in the press. I'm not sure that Facebook experts have all the information, but if anybody is in doubt about any fact, we should be able to answer most of your questions here at City Hall. If you notice, the same people that claim the city never grows or tries to improve are against this project. There are other concerns that I have about this post, but the major one is that it appears to have been posted to intimidate council members by asking people of like mind to contact them. I'm getting tired of coercion by intimidation. It has been tried on this council several times, and they have always overcome it. I am proud of them for that. I have a problem with the councilman taking issues on public forums with the idea of influencing anyone. Now, I know that he didn't do this on the original post, but he has condoned it by not correcting falsehoods that appeared in ensuing comments. Having said all this, I am prepared to listen to citizens' concerns in the next session of our agenda. No personal attacks or innuendo against individual councilmen or the council at large will be tolerated. Thank you. Okay, we're ready to go for business from the audience. Limited to 3 minutes per speaker. Any person, resident or non-resident, wishing to address the council may approach the microphone and state their name and comments. Looks like we got some people here, so figure it out amongst yourselves. Who's first? All right.
Well, whatever you said will sound pretty good, but I'm just confused that the word give, I guess, if he's not paying for it, if he's doing all the structure and work, that might work out in the long run. But what bothers me is it doesn't seem to me that you all get the best deals. Because have you put it out there to anybody else on that new real estate out there? Did you do anything with 200 acres you traded for it? And helping Missouri Valley College is fine, but there's no tax money that comes from that, is there?
Not directly.
So, really, to me, and then you give the school another 120, and you're tearing down that smokestack, that's already cost us probably around $2 million out there of our tax money that you give to the school. I have nothing against doing things for the school, but they tax us pretty dang good. And when you start giving our money to them, it's just my opinion, that looks like double taxation.
Can I interrupt? You can finish after I tell you this. The original contract with the state to take the HAB Center to the city was finalized, I believe, in 2018. I could be wrong, but Dan, is that about right? And it probably spoke about it for about a year and a half and then got finalized. And one of the requirements, several other requirements of that included tearing down that building by 2027. So that's a requirement of that contract. That wasn't done by this council, maybe a couple of council members. Number two, one of the requirements was that we could only do business with the school, the public school system. We could not sell that land for any other purpose, and we were not to make, I'm sorry, it's in the contract and it's available
Well,
to
I
be
was
seen.
gonna say, I don't ever remember that ever being said or
It's-
put in the paper that it was, the only thing we can do is, why didn't you just give it all to them to begin with?
Well, we had that discussion when, we've had work sessions with the school, we had all that in public, it's on YouTube, it is there. We'll try to, if you want to see some of the contract, it's public information, we can get that to you. So anyway, those are the constraints we've been under, and that's why the building is coming down, regardless of what people think about it. And it is part of the contract with the state and now with the public schools as well. And we've actually pushed it up now so that we won't have a problem while they're still constructing their building and by the time they hopefully have their students going here this fall. We don't want that to be an impediment to the kids or to the traffic flow in and out. So that's the reason for now on that.
To me.
And that's your 3 minutes, but that's not correct, because you've still got some time. I took your time.
Okay, another thing is, over there on Lincoln Street, and I brought this up, there is no sidewalk, curb, or guttering. These kids don't have no place to walk if they walk to school. Where is all this money gonna come from?
Well, that comes from our tax money.
Have we got money to do that with?
Yeah, we are working on a plan with Randy and the schools and everything. We want it to be compatible, but you're right, it's still in the planning stages.
Well, like I said, because that goes all the way down to the circle that doesn't have curbs, guttering, sidewalk. Slater Street don't even have it.
Slater Street's one of the streets we're actually looking at for maybe a collecting point and a transfer point, but we're not there yet.
And another thing is, that street's too narrow for this kind of traffic. Lincoln, if you get out there and you put two cars together, that's enough.
I will tell you that that's my concern too, but we're gonna wait and see how it works out, and we'll deal with it if we have to, honestly.
Because that's gonna be
something
the
we've-
biggest
we've-
mess you ever seen.
We've
out
had some
there.
conversations on that, but nothing's been resolved.
Okay.
Thank you. Next. Yes. Yeah, we'll wait on you. We can give you electric shock, you know all about those.
My name's Mike Mills. I think the last time I was up here I was trying to talk you guys into the property for the schools, so. I first began my career as a politician in Marshall in 1984. And we were still in the old building over there, and we still paid for our own streets. So, everything I've heard tonight is, all this has been better. And so my wife tells me I need to write everything down so I don't ramble, but that's gonna happen. So So some of this stuff is my fault that we were talking about tonight. I was so happy that when we came up here and we had an opportunity to get the HAB Center, I had a vision of what that could happen. I know that since I've been involved with, I've been on the council, I've been on the school board, I've been on the utility board. So, and sometimes we don't all work together and sometimes we do. And I'm like Mayor Lutterby, I really tried to get everybody to be on the same page when all this happens. So, and most of the time it worked and some of the time it didn't. But it's a very hard thing to do. We have been involved in the MSDC when I was here when I was instrumental when we brought everybody together, because it used to be the city had worked their thing and the county had worked their thing, and everybody, you know, was real secretive about what happens. Well, now everybody should be on the same page. This should not happen. And so, but it is very important that one of the things in the 80s, and I think we did it in the 2000s too, we paid companies to come in and say, well, why hasn't Marshall grown? Well, there are several reasons why it happened. And, you know, why aren't we getting industry in here? Well, there's several reasons, and one of them was the schools. And it has been like pulling teeth, your own teeth, to get what we've got going out there. Now it's going. I mean, it's the most wonderful thing I've ever seen. And we're gonna have new schools. We got, you know, yeah, we do have problems with sidewalks and roads and things, but all that'll get fixed. It will. I'm just absolutely convinced of that. And the second thing is workforce housing. If we would get a company to come in here today that wanted to hire 150 people, they would go to a different town, because we could probably find or get 150 people to move to Marshall. But I think right now the realtors can answer this. I can't. I think there's probably 35 homes for sale in Marshall right now. That's not very many houses. And the last really workforce housing I can remember going up in Marshall is the Davis Edition out there. And that's when I started buying my homes, was in the 80s. And we were out there, and we have progressed and we've moved and things. So, you know, I really think this is a very, very important thing to have happen. And I was on the school board when we bought the property out there from Geringer's, and we were gonna put a school out there. Well,
Mike, that's 3, but finish your thought. That's 3 minutes, but finish your thought, please.
Sure. I'm very for this. So I'm just trying to give some history, you know?
Yeah.
A lot of people don't know history, and this is some of the history, so.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Hello, everybody. I'm Dale Sassman. My concern with this housing development is the sanitary sewer system that's on the west side of 65 Highway. It runs right through my backyard. I get sewer backups almost annually, and they're backups of brown trout, you know, trout season. It hit again this summer, I think in July. And I've got a backflow preventer, but it failed this time. I've got neighbors that struggle with this too. If we add that additional load, I want to make sure that we get the infrastructure improvements that'll take care of that issue too, rather than overloading it even more.
Yes, and sir, that is the hangup right now. We have not got the final stormwater plan, and it will be to state regs. And Mr. Kerman's right next to you. If you want to talk to him.
I'm not talking about stormwater management. I'm talking about sanitary sewer here.
Okay, well, the sanitary sewer, well, okay, that'll be part, it specs to Jeff Bergman is the MMU, and he's been looking at that. And if you have a question, please call Mr. Kerman. We'll get you your answers with the man that's most responsible for doing that. And so JD can call you, and we can get that squared away.
Thank you.
And we'll make sure you're satisfied.
I got a question for you, just to make sure I'm understanding. The brown trout was a euphemism, right?
Yeah. From my college days.
I just wanted to make sure that I was.
I don't know what the limit is, but it's probably not.
It's a little bit graphic, I know, but he gets a book.
You go fishing in it if you want.
Use a net, not a.
Hello.
My name is Kristen. I think I've spoken to most of you, almost. I have a question for the proposed prices on these homes. I read 300,000 to 400,000, is that correct?
That seems to be the range, yes, at the moment. He hasn't ordered all his final supplies.
Okay.
You know, he's hoping for less, but this is a realistic appraisal.
Okay, so in that context, I think I have a concern for what that means for the people that actually live here in Marshall and their ability to afford these homes. So 47% of Marshall households earn less than $50,000 annually, which would not qualify for these homes, right? So there's 100 homes. There's been a suggestion made by a Facebook expert that that would have a ripple effect and lower other home prices in the area, but that's speculative and conjecture. We don't know that. Was there any consideration for mixed-use development or multifamily units on this land? Any plans for that at all? in
That is
Marshall?
not the developer's plan, and
Okay.
he would be buying the land and putting the infrastructure in, so no, in this particular case. I will tell you, and it's still in the formative stage, we do have at least one other developer looking at putting some things like that in. He's already bought the land, as a matter of fact. So,
Okay.
we'll see how that goes, but for this particular property, no, that is not what's gonna happen.
Okay, so I guess my next question would be, are we build it and hope people come? Who's buying these homes?
Mr. Mills spoke to that a little bit. Hopefully, it helps increase the workforce and the people. We have quite a few people that live out of town that work in Marshall, that come here. Hopefully, we can start. But yes, it's not gonna be an overnight thing, and it's not gonna make Marshall rich. We're not gonna build Disneyland just north of here or anything anytime soon. But it's a project that a lot of towns would be glad to have. And I hope the problems are the kind of problems we like to deal with. But once again, the city itself doesn't have any skin in the game at this point. If there's a reversionary clause that if this fails, the city gets all the improvements that are already on the land and the land back. We might have some empty houses, but that would be a small price to pay at this point because we could sell them at our leisure.
Okay, is this a phased development, phase 1, phase 2?
I believe so. It hasn't been finalized yet. I think, JD, you have any more? You've talked to him more recently than I have.
At this point, the developer has indicated to the planning commission that he's going to approach this in a single phase.
Okay.
Yeah.
One go, okay, brave. I think affordability was probably my biggest concern. I don't want to add to lobbying any accusations at anyone, but I would like to state that I think more transparency between MSDC and that transaction would probably be good. I haven't seen anything, but I also haven't looked for it, so if there's something online or something I can request, I'd like to see the president's role, both in bringing this development here, and if she is a private citizen selling them, how that would work.
I'll pass your concerns on to them.
Okay.
How's that sound?
That sounds good.
Okay.
Just public trust, I think, is good.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Gotta write that note. Anybody else? Oh, okay. I thought you might be just leaving. Okay. Okay.
Interestingly enough, historically, cities didn't pay for a lot of the development in new developments. That was a recent development in the last 50, 60 years. So the negotiation that you have for that is actually to the city's benefit. When you look at it from an economic perspective and the city goes at risk for those kinds of things, they usually don't end up winning in the end. You lose money. My question has to do with where are we on considering multi-use zoning, where we have higher density of people living in an area and maybe having neighborhood groceries. 40, 50 years ago, when I walked to school, I walked past 2 neighborhood grocers. Now we don't have any of those. Maybe there's a possibility if we change our zoning for some of the development that we might be able to stimulate some of that from an economic perspective. And I just don't know where we are with our thoughts on our zoning, because right now it's all single family.
It's a good question. We have been discussing, although we've got so much background, I don't know how fast it's gonna happen, but
Yeah.
developing an entirely new city plan.
Yeah.
The last one was, I believe, in the 70s, maybe 72,
Yeah,
and it dealt mostly with things like mobile homes and things like that. So we've preliminarily started it, but yeah, the answer to your question is, it's somewhere in the future before we do that. Although, if somebody came up with an idea and they included what they wanted to put in there and everything, we'd certainly deal with that at the
Well,
time.
I was thinking about, the development for downtown, the Hometown USA stuff. It would make sense to do it in that context, that we've got lots where things have been torn down. If you want to reconstruct in a way that.
And I believe, sir, that the area that's under consideration is still not finalized. And we don't know how far out from the square we're gonna go.
Yeah.
There've been some maybe the Times have been talking about it going out as far as Eastwood School
Okay.
in that area. And then there's others about, the homeowners will all have to agree because they're under certain constraints if they work on their house and things like that. So we're trying to find that out right now, and I really don't know where we are on that because I'm not part of that committee. But as far as the Marshall Plan and everything like that goes, I do want to get that squared away and start it go and probably impose on quite a few council members and all the city department heads to get to work on that as soon as we get some of this other stuff
Do you
cleared
want
out.
citizen input? 'Cause I'd be
Oh, yes,
happy-
absolutely.
Happy to help volunteer
Yeah.
or do
We-
whatever we need to.
We will have
push
citizen
it
input
along.
on the Marshall Plan for sure.
Okay,
Thank you.
that's it.
And
Yes,
I'd
Dad.
just
Yes,
like
Steve.
that, meanwhile, if you've got questions or whatever, that girl's name is Rebecca.
Rebecca Adams, and
And
she's
she
also
works right over there.
tourism.
Oh, okay.
She's also with tourism.
She would be a good resource for
Okay.
that, if you got questions.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, I'm Dave Riley.
I know, Dave.
State
We
my name.
sat next to you at leaning
beginning
side not
of
too
it,
long
so-
ago, and your
Yeah,
daughter.
okay.
So, great. This is the time, everybody. Okay.
Hey, folks. My name's Kyle. I've got two questions. The contractor or whoever is doing these builds, is he gonna attempt to get any materials locally?
Yes.
Okay. Second question. Bringing in 100 homes, is that gonna add a burden to our firefighters and our police officers?
Yes.
Do we know about how much? Is there any kind of way to predict that by any chance?
I don't know that any, JD?
It's kind of an odd question. I was just kind of curious.
Oh, it's a
talking
good
about
question. I
the
don't
waste
know
and
that I've got the
everything.
answer. Maybe JD might talk about where we're at on that.
I didn't know how much of an increase we'd be looking at.
Yeah,
As it passes.
I don't have a methodology that I could use to sort of tell you that what the cost factor or something like that would be.
Fair enough.
But I can tell you that on the front end, at this stage, when you're dealing with the plat, the preliminary and the final plat, the fire code, for example, plays a big role and dictates number of entrances, ingress, egress, the space apart they can go, and that was actually one of the points that was dealt with at the subdivision advisory level, was just
Okay.
making sure that we met those basic requirements so that that area can be served mainly by fire apparatus, of course.
Fair enough.
As far as impact goes, that's something we typically absorb those impacts as they come in. I think what would probably be a more problematic approach would be if we were annexing a large area that was already built out, because we'd be dealing with possibly
JD,
substandard.
microphone.
Oh, beg your pardon.
That's all right.
I got too comfortable. Substandard, if we had a situation where there weren't adequate hydrants and things of that nature, but in this case, all of that can be incorporated at the front end of the deal. So that's really how that's being addressed at this point.
All right, fair enough.
There probably will be a need for additional manpower at some point, and hopefully
and
that's a
by that
problem we
point-
can deal with at
Yeah.
that point. Hopefully
If
that,
we get 100 families in, we
that
don't.
would be a good problem to
have
have.
women for the force, I understand. So
Correct.
I was just curious about that.
Right, thank you. Going once, twice. Thank you, everybody. That was really good. Appreciate it. We'll work on those issues, and we're not going anywhere. This hasn't been finalized yet. Feel free to come up again January 7th if we're still going along this way. Okay. Discussion and appropriate follow-up is next. The first thing is appointment to the Board of Public Works. You've got it in your packets. I'm appointing Wick Jacoby for a 4-year term. Any discussion on that? He took over for Mr. Fricky when Mr. Fricky passed last year, and he's finished up his first year and we're ready to go for another 4. If not, can I have a motion and a second to approve?
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, get that, Julie?
Brandt and Thompson?
Right. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. You guess?
Excuse me.
Okay, this side is the problem side over here, let me just tell you that right now. Okay, Planning and zoning recommendation to set the public hearing for January 21st, 2025. Dan, you're on planning and zoning, you and Nathan, any comments on that?
Planning and zoning had this, we had a public hearing. Afterwards, we went into regular session. There was a lot of discussion, a lot of questions that were asked of the developer at that time. And it was a recommendation from the planning and zoning to pass that to the council. At this point, we'll be setting a public hearing or deliberating on that further into the meeting.
Any
And
questions?
This is for the Marshall Municipal Utilities having a power generating plant.
Over on,
Going from industrial to heavy industrial.
on Grant
Oh, I'm
Street.
sorry, I'm on a different subject, yeah. Yeah, that was, I'm on the development, but that was.
I'm glad I'm not the only one that does that.
Yeah, that was, we had no comment or questions from the public.
Right.
On that situation, so, thank you, Nathan. for
Would
catching
we
my
want to be
fall
like to
there.
make a motion to approve that recommendation?
I would move that we would, the council would go ahead and set that
The
set that public
21st,
hearing.
which would be
for
the
21st.
the second meeting in January.
I'll second that.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
That's been planned and set. First resolution, to approve the rate change of Board of Public Works. Can I have the clerk read the resolution by title only, please?
A resolution of the City of Marshall, Missouri approving a rate change of the Board of Public Works.
Everybody comfortable with that? Have they had enough feedback on that to know what's going on? If not, Tony's right here. All right, Tony, you might want to just give a quick outline for anybody
Yeah,
that's
so,
watching otherwise.
So this is a rate that we review and calculate every year annually. It's the BOD and TSS rates for the wastewater treatment plant. Kind of a simplified method is we look at our operational plant costs, debt service costs, and inflow treatment. We look at BOD concentrate, TSS concentrate, come up to an average cost per pound. That cost is then averaged over the previous 2 years to get a 3-year average. And that's the rate that we recommended to the board and to you guys. So for instance, this year, we're looking at a 3-cent increase in BOD cost per pound, so from 24 cents to 27 cents. And then the TSS, total suspendable solids, would stay the same at 24 cents. Really, there's 3 industrial customers that we have that this impacts. Last year, our total revenue was $43,000. This increase we're estimating about $50,000, so $7,000 annual increase. So it's not a huge increase, but it is an increase, so.
Just to note, this is strictly for industrial, it has nothing to do with residential
Correct.
rates. Okay.
Correct.
Anything else for Tony while he's here?
And I think you said also that these rates go up, but they could go down if
They
your
could go down,
projection
correct.
was,
Yep.
yeah.
And that's kind of why we do the 3-year averages to limit the year-to-year increase or decrease.
Yeah.
So, and we don't bill till the end of January, so I know 2 readings will be fine.
Oh, it'll happen tonight if it's going to happen. It's one reading's all it's going to take, I think, just the
Okay, yeah,
resolution.
that's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a resolution, yeah.
Do I have a motion and a second to approve this?
So moved.
Jim?
Second.
Green? All in favor?
Aye.
Oh, I'm sorry, this is roll call. Roll call. Never mind.
Guthrie,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Allen,
Yes.
Swisher,
Yes.
Brandt,
Yes,
Cook,
Yes.
Green,
Yes.
Happer.
Yes.
Passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
If you want to talk about the commercial solid waste collection, stay right up there, but otherwise, we're moving on. Can I have the clerk read the resolution by title only, please?
A resolution of the City of Marshall, Missouri establishing rates for commercial solid waste collection.
Drew, you've probably worked with this as much as anybody. Would you like to talk about that?
Yeah, every year in the contract, it says that they can come to us for a rate increase for January. We talk about it in December. And they did approach us for a $10 increase, pretty much across the board, I think it was, wasn't it, Dan?
yeah.
Yeah. So we took that into consideration, made some calls, did some background checking to make sure the prices were still competitive or lower in our area zone, and we did find that to be true. They may not have been lower in all cases, but even if it was higher in 1 or 2 spots, it was marginally higher, $5, $10. So we are still, on average, lower than most people in our area or zone, or whatever you would consider, 60-mile radius or so. So we did go ahead and, after getting that information, agree with the $10 increase on commercial dumpster.
And you have some history with that too, having dumpsters in other cities.
Sure, yeah, one of the interesting things is when you look at dumpster cost, I think ours, a 4-yard would go from 110 one time a week, so 110 per month to 120, so a $10 increase. But when I have a 4-yard down in the Branson area, I do it twice a week, but it's twice a week. For a month, it's $293. The actual charge for the trash is $150, but there is $145 or so just in fees that they tack on there because they don't have to, they can just put a fee on any bill. And so, as we talked about that in committee, I kind of like the fact that there was no fees associated with RTS's rate scale. It was
Right.
just, it's
What you got,
120,
that's
and
it.
that's what it is. And so, they weren't trying to fleece anybody with just adding and tacking on fees. Yeah, my fees went up $50 a month, just the fees. I mean, the rate trash didn't change down there, so, yeah.
Any other questions that he might be able to answer or any concerns?
No, I think Drew covered it. We met with him and just wanted to make sure everybody knows that this is strictly a commercial rate and has anything to do with your residential rate. That was a locked-in deal for 3 years when we signed that contract. We have 1 more year with that commercial or residential rate. So this is just strictly commercial, so.
Yeah, yeah, and so like Dan said, this is the last year of that locked-in rate. So next year in '26, your residential rate will go up 50 cents.
Well, 25, 26, yeah.
Yeah, in 2026, so everybody will forget I said that by then, but just making
I've
that
just not
point
forgotten
that
that.
this year it's the same, so.
Okay, is there a motion and a second for this resolution?
So moved.
Second. Allen?
Okay, roll call, please.
Thompson,
Yes.
Allen,
Yes.
Swisher,
Yes.
Brandt,
Yes?
Cook,
Yes.
Green,
Yes.
Paprick,
Yes.
Guthrie.
Yes.
Passes. Ordinances. The first is to work on the Office of the City Attorney. I'd like the clerk to give their first reading by title only, please.
An ordinance amending certain sections of Article 5, Chapter 115 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Marshall, Missouri regarding the Office of City Attorney.
JD, would you like to speak to this, please? We had a little discussion about our city attorney being out of town and things like that, which led to this, so a little history would be probably a good idea.
Yeah, there's some interest in looking at the Office of the Prosecutor and how effective that office can be in terms of not just the municipal court, but also in interfacing with the police department. But what this will allow us to do is the city attorney will have the option of also serving as the prosecutor if the council so chooses. In this case, the city attorney already functions as a prosecutor for things like the Board of Code Enforcement and things like that. And this would expand that role into the municipal courts. So, I'm sorry, you should probably speak to this a little bit.
No, I just wanted to clarify that when JD said, Mr. Kierman said, city attorney, it's actually city councilor is responsible for prosecuting the Board of Code Enforcement and those types of things. And so the city attorney position is separate from city councilor. That's the city municipal prosecuting attorney position. And I just wanted to clarify that term, counselor versus attorney, which is super confusing for everybody because usually attorneys are called counselor or attorney. So I just wanted to clarify that for the record more than anything.
And this is just to change the code so that we can do this without any conflicts or anything like that, so that everybody's on the up and up and knows what's going to go on. It's not an actual hiring process yet. It's just the changing of the code to make the hiring process possible.
Correct.
Okay, is there a motion and a second to approve the first reading?
I move to approve. Green?
Second, Thompson.
Roll call, please.
Allen,
Yes.
Swisher,
Yes.
Brandt,
Yes?
Cook,
Yes.
Green,
Yes.
Paprick,
Yes.
Guthrie,
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
Okay, it's passed. I don't want anybody to read anything into this, but there's been a request to to delay the execution of the contract between the City of Marshall and Marshall Saline Development Corporation. I talked to Connor out there, who's their, the director out there, and he says that's no problem at all. There's a couple of questions about procedure and what's going on and where the money goes that some council members that haven't been involved with this before would like to know about. So I'm going to take that off the agenda if that's okay with everybody and put it on the January 7th agenda. Any complaints or problems with that? Okay, thank you. Appropriations, can I have the clerk give the first reading by title only, please?
An ordinance making the appropriation for the payment of accounts out of the different city funds.
Can I have a motion and a second to take this to a second reading, please?
I move to take it to a second reading, Green.
Second, Allen.
Oh, I think Charlie got you. so
Charlie got you this time.
You gotta be
Appreciate
ready.
the effort.
You gotta be
All right, roll call, please.
Brandt,
Yes.
Cook,
Yes.
Green,
Yes.
Paprick,
Yes.
Guthrie,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Allen,
Yes.
Swisher.
Yes.
Can I have the clerk give the second reading by title only, please?
An ordinance making the appropriation for the payment of accounts out of the different city funds.
Can I have a motion and a second to approve this second reading, please?
So moved, Brant. Come on, Johnny.
He's out, he's out.
Second, Green.
Okay.
Gave him a chance.
All right, roll call, please.
Cook,
Yes.
Green,
Yes.
Paprick,
Yes.
Guthrie,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Allen,
Yes.
Swisher,
Yes.
Brandt.
Yes.
Approved. Any other council business?
The ordinance for the MSDC, sorry, I was late, by the way. Is that going to committee, or are we having a work session? on
I'll probably turf it to finance.
Okay.
Just, they've got a couple of questions, but anybody's welcome to talk with the finance committee people about it and see what's going on. We give them $15,000 a year annually.
Okay.
It was a question maybe where the money goes.
Okay, I didn't know if we were like gathering information and
No,
then
I
come
don't
back as
think
a
it's
work
too much.
session.
We might have a chat with one or two of their people just to
Okay.
find out what the answers to the question are, but we'll take care of it.
Okay.
Okay, any other council business? Do I have a motion and a second to adjourn?
Yes.
Motion to adjourn.
John,
Who made the motion?
Second, Allen.
second. All in favor? Thank you, everybody, for showing up. Appreciate it. See you on the 7th.